Welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton. Today we're back in the Brock Bourbon Bar, and we're doing a little virtual interview with, I'm going to call him a buddy of mine, because we've already met and talked a few times, and we text back and forth. Troy Bolotnick with Filmland Spirits. Troy, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks so much, Scott. Great to be back.
Great to have you back. I think it's been, maybe 18, 19 months since we sat down, and at that time, it literally, Rise of the Robots had just came out, so I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a minute. I think it was 2022, if I remember correctly, when we posted that episode, so it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it was right after we launched. I was thinking about it today. It might have been the first podcast that I did.
Well, welcome back. I'm glad we popped your podcast cherry there. If that's the case.
Did you just touch your boob while you said that, Scott? Come on.
I was starting the Dadzilla shirt.
Okay, sure.
The Dadzilla shirt. You know, I mean, he's a theater buff and he loves the movies. So I mean, I thought he would appreciate that I'm Dadzilla today. I couldn't find the Pulp Fiction, so I mean, we have to go with what movie stuff we've got. So anyway, back to what's going on, what is new, and then for people that maybe didn't listen to the first episode, maybe you go back a little bit to the beginning and just tell people who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive right into these offerings that we have to taste today.
All right, sounds good. So my name is Troy Bolotnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Filmland Spirits. We are an LA-based company, but we do all of our work in Kentucky. So we age, blend, and bottle in Frankfort. We have been on the market now in September, it'll be 3 years. We launched originally in California, home of the movies, and Kentucky, home of bourbon. We're now in 16 states, and by the fall, we should be in our 17th state, which will be Texas. Myself and one of my partners many years ago used to be screenwriters. And so we combined our passion for bourbon and movies together to create Filmland Spirits. And what we do is we create an original script for every one of our products. And it's one that pays homage to the B movies of the mid-20th century. So robots and monsters, big over-the-top characters and plots. And then we create a poster for that script that becomes the label. And it's illustrated in that mid-20th century pulp art kind of style and bright, eye-catching colors. One side of the label is all about the movie with a synopsis and the characters. You can watch a trailer on our website. The other side of the label is all about the award-winning liquid that's in the bottle. So we have 4 core products: Moonlight Mayhem Bourbon, Moonlight Mayhem Extended Cut Cask Strength Bourbon, Rise of the Robots Rye, and Rise of the Robots Extended Cut Rye. We've been really gratified that all of our core products and most of our limited releases have won gold or double gold medals at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. And then we do limited releases as well, from single barrels to the 3 limited releases. You have all 3 of our limited releases I think we're going to talk about today, so I'll kind of leave it there.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I tell you what, I don't want to hog up the mic too much tonight, because I know that Johnny's probably going to geek out a little bit on the film and on the theater side, and I know the legend got the pleasure of meeting you at Justin House of Bourbon, and he just happens to be a close personal friend of mine as well. So let's dive in first of all. Let's talk a little bit about the Quadraforce. I know it's out right now. You can still find it in a few locations. I haven't seen. It was hard to find. This was not easy to find. So that should make you happy that we've been selling it pretty good, if that's the case.
It does. I know there were a few left in some liquor barns when I was there in June. But so Quadraforce, I like to talk about Quadraforce as the most unique bourbon you'll ever have, because no one has ever made this particular bourbon and no one will ever make it again, because we made it by combining 4 bourbons originally distilled in 4 different states. And the result is a 4-grain wheated bourbon. And we took that singular liquid and we put it into bottles and put 4 different labels on bottles. So each label features one of the 4 Quadraforce heroes, and each one of the heroes represents one of the states of distillation. So there's Kentucky Anna for the Louisville edition, Cali Comet for the Los Angeles edition, Tennessee Terra for the Nashville edition, and then Mr. Misteron, who represents the mystery state of distillation.
Yeah, I remember we had talked about that. That was we were really deciphering that whenever we first got to try that a number of months ago. And so we were just slowly depicting that as we were going along. It's like, okay, this means this, and then Mysterion, we're like going, what?
Is it Georgia? Is it Ohio? I mean, we were sitting there thinking, like, where's the distilleries? Is it West Virginia? Is it Virginia? I mean, like,
Scott, you just can't ask that. You've got to get the clue. He's got to give you a clue, and we decipher it with drinking.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, that's how these things work, dude.
It is not Indiana. That's the only thing.
I knew it wasn't Indiana.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a sip of it while you talk.
What's cool with Quadraforce is this past spring at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, it was awarded a gold medal. And in this month's edition of Wine Enthusiast magazine, they gave it a score of 95, which, for a whiskey and wine enthusiast, that's a super high score. So one of the other products we're going to taste today, Town at the End of Tomorrow, when we originally released that got a 93 in Wine Enthusiast, and we were all like so excited because that was such a high score. And then Quadraforce got the 95, and we were super excited about that as well.
So I was re-listening to the 2022 episode that you did on the podcast for the first time, just to kind of refresh some ideas and thoughts for today. And you had talked about wanting to release you had plans at least to release a weeder at the time you said in the next few years. So is the Quadraforce that result of that idea or that drive to release a weeded bourbon?
I would probably say no, because we didn't sell it or market it strictly as a weeded bourbon, because there's so much about it that's unique. So we talked about at one point doing a 4-grain bourbon. We talked about doing a weeded bourbon. This ended up sort of accidentally being both, because we did combine those 4 different bourbons, and one of them is a weeded bourbon. And so as a result, we end up with a 4-grain weeded bourbon. But it's not, when we do a weeded bourbon, it'll be a weeded bourbon, and that will be the focus of it. So while it is a weeded bourbon, it's not the fulfillment of that conversation.
Yesterday at work, I retasted Moonlight Mayhem, Quadraforce, the Talk at the End of Tomorrow, Town at the End of Tomorrow, I'm sorry, and of course the Robots. And I had never had Quadraforce before, but I was very impressed with it. It definitely, Moonlight Mayhem is good. I've had both the regular and the cask strength, but I was really impressed with the Quadraforce. There's just something very unique about it, and it was a great blending job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it was, so Quadraforce was a concept. It was an idea I had before we ever launched the company. And I knew I had the superhero idea and the idea that it would be 4 superheroes. And at the time, I thought we would just blend 4 bourbons together. I didn't have the notion that it would be 4 different states. That kind of developed. And then we said, well, can we find 4 good bourbons, like really good, from 4 different states that can combine in the right way? It seemed like a very risky thing to do, and luckily it paid off.
So how much of that was like a trial and error in determining not just which states, but then which mash bills from each state that you wanted to go with?
Sort of as I always say, everything's always a combination of like creative and desire and the whiskey and business, right? So we had to find state, we wanted to try and find a California bourbon, which is harder to do, that was really good, because we're in California. We thought it's got to have at least Kentucky and California in it. And then we went, Kentucky obviously is much easier to find a bourbon that we knew would work. And in fact, the bourbon we found in Kentucky was so good, we bought more of it than we needed for Quadraforce so that we could use it as a standalone product sometime in the future. Because on its own, it is so good. And then I think I was getting samples from different sources, and somebody sent me the Tennessee bourbon that's in there, and I loved it. And then I started playing around with small samples of everything to mix it together to make sure I thought it was going to work, and I felt like it could. So then the blending team is myself, my partner Charlie Flint, and one of our other partners, Steve Canepa. And everybody plays multiple roles in the company, but the 3 of us make up the blending team. So then I sent samples to them, and then we all met at the bottling facility in Kentucky and really started playing with larger quantities and figuring out the ratios. And it was our most interesting blending process since the first time, I think, because we really didn't know exactly what we were going to do. And you take a lot of risk, because you put in 1 barrel too many or half a barrel too many of one thing, and it can throw the entire flavor. So, it was super risky. I was definitely nervous before that one, and I was very excited when it worked out.
Yeah. I tell you, the one thing that keeps coming back when I drink this, and this is probably the 3rd or 4th time that I've drank it since you sent us the samples. We tasted it on the podcast. I had it at Johnny's house again when I took it over for a party at his house and some other stuff, and then actually got a pour of it at Frankfurt Avenue Liquors. It's got such a heavy malt like finish and mid palate that, like, I don't know how you did that and the reason being is because when I started looking at the blend, right, like unless the California is crazy high malt and I don't know it, right, because I don't know what distillery you used. Typically, Kentucky bourbon isn't super high malt. Tennessee is almost always 4 to 8%. That's it. Like, I mean, there's not a whole lot of variance there. So unless the other ones were just crazy high malt, I have no idea how you got this much viscosity and this much mouth and malt fill off of it. So,
well, the 3 of the 4 mash bills are right there on the bottle.
Yeah.
If you look on the side credits, so you can see I typically don't use very high malt anything, unless for bourbon or rye anyway. So yeah, no, that comes. I think a lot of that comes from the Kentucky bourbon that's in there.
Really,
I just realized that the bottle we have here is different than the bottle we have at Justin's House of Bourbon.
yeah. There's 4 different labels. Each
Well, I
character
know,
has their own.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
before, and I just, I
But the
have
liquid-
eyes that work.
The liquid inside is the same regardless of the label.
Now, see that's where you could confuse people. Tell them, oh man, you gotta get all 4 flavors.
Gotta catch them all.
That's right, like a Pokemon.
I've actually had somebody early on who bought all 4 bottles and held a tasting with their whiskey club and did comparisons between each one and then sent me the results. And I was like, I felt so badly writing back and being like, it's the same liquid in all 4 bottles.
That's the
Because they
same
were like,
juice.
we voted on our favorite. Everybody tasted this and this one and this and this one. And I'm like, "Ugh, it's the same
Should have
liquid.
said thank you.
Maybe if it was a stranger, I would have, but it's somebody that I know and I've talked to many times, and I was like, oh, I feel badly. But we tried to make that really clear. It's in big letters. There's a hang tag on the bottle.
I wondered because I've bought 3 bottles of this already, and I've had the 2 ladies, and then now I purchased the Mysterion, and I was wondering if maybe that bottle had something like more in it to like elevate it. So the fact that it's the same, but it's still like on the nose even, I get this nice vanilla cream soda almost. And it's one of the nicest. Honestly, this is one of the nicest for the price point and the proof that it's at. And I'm not going to say I'm not fanboying like a little bit, but like
Oh, you're fanboy.
Shut up,
It's okay.
Scott. No,
I
I'm-
appreciate it.
But
though.
it just, I don't understand because, like, especially in a time in 2025 where you're paying out the nose for quality products a lot, I don't feel a lot of the things I purchased justified the cost. This, to me, could be a higher cost because it is just that good. It is that crushable.
Oh, well, thank you. We definitely took a hit on our margin on purpose on this because it was one of the more expensive products to make that we've ever made, but it obviously is down towards the bottom of our pricing range. And we did that on purpose. We just said we'd rather make less money and get it in the mouths of more people. But you hit it right on the head with the vanilla cream. When we were blending it and we hit the blend that we like, it was because I remember I tasted it and I turned to the guys and I was like, do you guys remember not Nilla wafer, but Vienna finger cookies?
oh,
Oh
yeah.
yes.
That's what I taste when I drink Quadraforce. Is that vanilla cream and that cookie flavor. I get overwhelmed by that every time I drink it. And because of that, by the way, this makes a fantastic old fashioned. It is my favorite old fashioned right now. It's my go-to.
Yeah,
I think we're going to take you up on that one.
Barbara, get to work. Just kidding.
the sort of sad thing. Sad thing is that I've only had that once, and I was almost overwhelmed by the different flavors that I was getting. There's so many things going on there.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
Yeah.
It is really complex. And of course, that was the risk that all those different flavors weren't going to complement each other and work together. But it is a very complex bourbon.
You had said that you would initially, even though this just was released within the last year, that it was maybe the initial concept when you started or before you had really officially kicked off Filmland Spirits. So were you already developing like a multiverse of your own at that time? Or was that just like wishful thinking that like I pray to God that this actually gets off the ground and people buy it?
We were brainstorming ideas from before we were funded and before we had the company off the ground. And then once we got a little bit of funding and we knew we were going to actually be able to, launch, and that was a 2-year process. We were always brainstorming ideas. I was always, and Moonlight Mayhem was a different concept before It's originally was something else. And when we decided it had to change, which was really about trademarks more than anything, we did a brainstorming session. And I think I still have like 30 or 40 ideas from that. And that brainstorming session is where the title, or where the idea that Town at the End of Tomorrow was going to be a time travel story came from that brainstorming session, even though we had Town at the End of Tomorrow as a title for a completely different product in our original business plan pitch. So yes, I'm always brainstorming. And then now I just, I kind of daydream whenever, falling asleep, in the shower, wherever it is, and ideas come to me and I write them down and figure one day there might be a liquid that we meet that matches this perfectly.
All right. Speaking of Town at the End of Tomorrow, let's dive in on that one. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind that. Obviously, you spoke a little bit about it just now with it being one of the initial ideas, but you flipped the script, no pun intended, to make it more of like a time travel type thing. So let's talk a little bit about that while we're sipping.
Yeah, sure. So the story of Town at the End of Tomorrow is it takes place in Bardstown, Kentucky, the home of bourbon, about 50, 60 years from now, when aged bourbon has run out. And of course, this has caused panics and riots, and the government steps in and passes the Unbonded Act, which says that all bourbon must be sold when it turns 2 years old. Now, our heroes are a couple of fifth-generation distillers in the future who do not like this, and so they turn their distillery into a time machine and travel back to Bardstown in 1800 and borrow the aged bourbon and bring it back to the future. The inspiration for this, like I said, it changed into a time travel story. I'm a time travel nerd. I'm a giant Doctor Who nerd. And I knew I wanted to do a time travel story. And once I knew I wanted Town at the End of Tomorrow to be time travel, it immediately hit me that they have to, either the past is coming to the future to steal the bourbon, or the future is going back to the past to steal the bourbon. And it's got to be about aging. And because it's about aging, we have to put out an older bourbon. So Town at the End of Tomorrow is the oldest bourbon we've ever put out. It's a Kentucky straight 9-year-old bourbon. And so there it ties into the story directly because of that.
That's a pretty neat concept. I'll tell you. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead, Legend.
So I have a question.
Sure.
When you were at Justin's, you were changing that 9-year to 10.5.
Yes.
So any story behind that?
Yeah, so what's going on is this. So we put out Town at the End of Tomorrow in the fall of 2023. We introduced it at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival that year, and we only made 600 bottles of it. And it's sold out right away. And so, and that's it. We didn't intend to make any more. Then come the spring, we were suddenly launched in like 3 or 4 more states, and they were all asking for it. And so we did another batch of 600 bottles that we gave to those new states that we had just gone into. It was like Kansas and Colorado, and I forget which other the third state was. And and that was it. And we were done. Now, when we first introduced Town at the End of Tomorrow, and I think I was at Justin's doing a tasting or something, and the manager at the time said that they asked for a single barrel of it. And we have a single barrel program, but it's based on our Moonlight Mayhem extended cut cast strength bourbon. And we have a whole program, and you can get samples and taste them, and then we'll do a single barrel and the whole thing. But we didn't have anything for Town, and I said no. And then they kept asking, and I kept saying no, and I kept saying no until I finally said yes. So in January of this year, I finally said yes. And so we bottled it, but part of the saying yes was I had extra labels, and I didn't want to go through the expense of printing new labels just for that, because it would have made the product very expensive to do that short run of labels. And so as a result, the labels say 9-year on it, because that's what the original Town at the End of Tomorrow was. But it's the same barrels, or it's the same group of barrels. Mm-hmm. So they continued to age. And by the time we put them in the bottle for this single barrel, it was, 10 and a half years old. So that's why in conversation, I'm saying 10 and a half. We could have gone back and redone the label, but the expense for one barrel didn't make sense. We would have had to raise the price and all of that. So Justin's has the only single barrel of Town at the End of Tomorrow we have ever done and we ever intend to do.
Well, I missed that part of the conversation because I was busy selling bottles.
Right. Yes, I remember, and I appreciate that.
He said, thank you. Thank you very much, Legend.
Yes.
In my job.
So the town at the end of tomorrow is, I mean, it is a quintessential Kentucky bourbon, and I don't know if you're allowed to say who made it or where it came from or where it was sourced from. It's pretty obvious based off of the mash bill, but is that something you typically discuss during that, or how does that work?
No, unfortunately, when
NDAs.
the majority of the distilleries that we source from, part of the deal is we can't say where we got it.
That's fair. Okay.
Which is why in Quadraforce, for example, there are 3 that we can at least say the states, but the 4th one, they wanted us to say nothing because in some way saying the state might make it very clear. And so we kind of leaned into that and said, all right, well, we're not allowed to say it. So let's make everything about that 4th state a mystery. We made the character Mr. Misteron, his powers, his secret identity, nobody knows. Even when he uses his powers, he doesn't know what's going to happen next time he uses them, right? The mash bill's a mystery. So we kind of leaned into that and made it part of the story. We also made that label. We printed less versions of that label, so it's a little harder to find, that kind of thing.
I think that's why John likes the bottle.
Oh, hands down, that screams everything that I'm into. Absolutely.
I'm glad. With Town at the End of Tomorrow, just contractually, we're not allowed to say where we got it.
Fair enough. I'm going to leave it alone then.
Have you compared the two side by side, the 9-year with the 10.5-year, just to see how that extra aging affected the flavor of the nose?
No, because I don't have a bottle of the Justins. Because when myself and my 2 partners who do the blending, we picked the barrels that we offered to Justin's as single barrels, and then they picked the one they liked the best from that, and then it got bottled. And I was not at the bottling facility when it got bottled. I was in Kentucky a few weeks later to do the signing, and that's when I got to taste it in the bottle for the first time. But they didn't have any town left. I don't think anybody did. And I was not checking a bag on that flight, so I couldn't take a bottle home with me. Right. And so the only place those bottles are at Justin's, and Justin's can't ship to me. Right?
Yeah, but individuals can.
Right. So we've actually bought bottles from Justin's, and they're holding them for us. So next time we come into town, and can
okay, good, because I was about to martyr myself and help you out with that, Troy.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it, but no, we'll get them next time we're in town. We're there pretty often.
I look forward to seeing you too.
I'm just nosing again. Again, the noses on these are fantastic, and on this one, I'm getting a cherry Dr. Pepper, and again for the proof of 94, I think it tastes a little heavier than that, and I like that because typically anything under 100, and I really struggle to get a lot of flavor from. So the fact that this is only 94 proof and still has the flavor of something that's in the 100 proofs is really impressive.
Yeah, there's something about this liquid. I remember when we did the original blend, we actually had samples pulled and sent to Charlie, my partner Charlie's house in Atlanta, and Charlie and I sat there and did test blends, and we didn't realize how hot the liquid was. I mean, the stuff out of the barrel was coming out of the barrel at like 124, 126. And we really weren't paying attention to that. We were just tasting all the barrels because we always taste the barrels at full strength, right? And then once we find the barrels we love, then we start messing with them and proofing them to different proofs. So we just blew out our taste buds. We both had like heartburn. It was so strong. So we put it away and we came back a couple of days later and we started blending and proofing it down. And we proofed it down to like 115, I think. And it was just so hot at 110, at 101 we tried. It was just too hot. Like the burn was just masking all the flavor. And as we got down to that 95, 94, suddenly all the flavor started to come out and that burn went away. And so for this one, that's why I think it drinks like it's a stronger proof, because there was just so much there that was actually interfering with the flavor, which usually doesn't happen. Usually, obvious for us anyway, people who like to drink it, cask strength, the less water in there, the more flavor there is. But this was a little different.
Okay, so I'm off camera. My name is Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
And you kind of Johnny hit on it a little bit. I literally, the first time I went in to nose for this particular one, I said it was candied cherry, and that's what I got.
Now, one interesting thing is that like off the first 2 pulls, I will say that it's almost like if you've ever had the little caramel candy squares, it's like at the very front, whenever you just take a bite of one of those, is that's the just flavor of that rich caramel, hint of vanilla rush on that sweetness on the front of that palate. Now that kind of goes away as it goes to the back of the palate, but that initial taste, sometimes that's what draws people into the things like these.
I really enjoy the floral note too on the mid palate. Like it really comes through really nicely, and it gives it a really nice texture, I guess would be the best way of putting it. It kind of coats the mid side of your mouth and gives a little bit more viscosity there. So let's dive into the last one here, or at least we'll talk about this one. So the Mayhem with the white port, Mayhem 2, I guess is what you're calling it.
Yes. So we have our Moonlight Mayhem 94 proof bourbon. That's the one that won a double gold medal at San Francisco. It's one of our original products that we launched with. It's one of our core products. So we decided we wanted to do our first finished bourbon already a couple of years ago. And we decided we wanted it to be our first sequel as well. And so we took our Moonlight Mayhem double gold medal and we let it age to 7 years. And then we put it in white port wine casks that we got from a vineyard in Napa Valley. And the result is Moonlight Mayhem 2, the White Port Wolf, which is our brand new limited release. We're just starting to get some reviews in on it, and they've been very positive, which is really exciting for us. But it's a super unique bourbon. I mean, a lot of people do red, typical red port or tawny port or things like that. White port is a lot less common. But we tasted the white port wine that was originally in these barrels, and we loved it. And we just thought this would be really interesting to finish some bourbon in this.
Yeah,
that's so Moonlight.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Moonlight Mayhem. The story ends with our heroes Tommy and Sylvain running away from the pack of werewolves on Hollywood Boulevard and escaping off like the end of The Graduate to go, figure out what their lives are going to be, right? But they know they're being pursued by the pack. So they end up in the start of Moonlight Mayhem 2, they end up in a disused vineyard in Napa Valley where they're hiding out and they encounter the mythical, legendary, fearsome white port wolf. And then, of course, the pack shows up, and who's going to side with who, and all of that ensues.
I mean, the story. I mean, the storytelling is amazing. I will say that. I have to give you guys extreme credit to how you bring this all together. And then, obviously, I want to follow that before we kind of get while they're kind of tasting and nosing. Are there plans for a part 3 in a trilogy?
Let's see how part 2 does. But sure, there's from the beginning, we've always said that we're going to do sequels, right, when it makes sense. And so it just, for us, what's funny is this originally was going to not be a sequel, and it was going to be like this, like a standalone spin-off. I envisioned it as a spin-off of Moonlight Mayhem, and we had it potentially as a different title and different thing. And then we did the artwork, and we slapped the title on there, and we're all staring at it. And I go, I think this needs to be Moonlight Mayhem 2. And everybody, my team at the same time was like, that's it. That's what's missing. And it just brought it all together from a story perspective and the label and the title and everything.
So I am a huge anti-finished fan in general. But I have come to learn that clear in terms of finishes, say rum and tequila, are things that I like, but I also have learned that white wine, muscatel, now this port, are very special in terms of what they do for the bourbon. I think that red wine and red port, whatever, however you want to call them, those finishes detract, but these things add to the bourbon, and there's a really special flavor that comes out with things like this, and I've not had this before right this moment, but I'm very impressed.
I'll tell you, the citrus note that's coming through on the nose immediately just is something I just keep going back to. I haven't even taken a sip yet, but just nosing it alone, there's like this citrus note. There's a little bit of a licorice or an anise note too on the nose a little bit, but that's typically that would turn me off. But like the more the citrus keeps kind of flowing through there, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to really taste it. But like I just keep nosing and nosing and nosing. It's got a great nose on it. It really does.
As Anita Bryant used to say, "Come to the Florida Sunshine Tree."
So
the nose on this is fantastic, and even this. Before we blended it, the individual barrels, when we were tasting it out of the white port wine casks, we opened the little, we have like 200 milliliter flasks that we and we opened it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. The nose on this is just so good.
So Scott was talking about, the citrus and the caramel and whatever. And
Licorice,
the
but
licorice.
okay.
Yeah, licorice. I'm sorry. My brain isn't here. It's been a day. And it made me think of Twizzlers put out a orange cream Twizzlers.
Oh,
God.
And I can see a whole lot of that in this.
I'm wondering. I don't know.
but then
You're gonna think I'm stupid on this. I'm almost think I'm getting strawberry out of this.
I could see where you're coming up with a strawberry note. And I think it's more about the actual maybe mouthfeel and the mid palate, like how strawberry kind of coats your tongue.
No, this is just on the nose.
Just on the nose?
I have never gotten strawberry from it.
I don't get on.
That doesn't
I don't
mean
get
it's
it on
not
the nose. No,
Like when we actually had a virtual tasting for everybody who pre-ordered this on our website a month before it came out. The promo we did is you can come to a virtual tasting. So we did it last night with myself, Charlie, and Steve, the blending team, and the people who had pre-ordered it. And whenever I do a tasting, I'm very much of the mind like, I forget what I taste, forget what the tasting notes are on the bottle. Just, I want to hear what you taste, right? Because it's, to some degree, there's a subjectiveness to it, right? And also, what you had for lunch today is going to affect what you taste. You guys all know this. So I'm very much more excited, good or bad, to hear what everybody else tastes, because that's also educational for us as well.
is that baking spice like almost like an apple pie or a cardamom spice or something like that?
I get the cardamom.
cardamom.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about working at some place like Justin's, is people come in and say, "What do you like? What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" I'm hard to say. What my opinion is doesn't matter. You need to try it. You need to taste it, because what you get is different than what I get.
Oh, I think your opinion matters a lot, especially if you're saying you like Filmland.
Well, I do say that, but still, that doesn't mean that they will
No,
like
I know.
it.
I know what you mean. Absolutely.
It's
Yeah. When I'm hosting tastings like at Justin's or Liquor Barn or wherever I have been doing tastings, these days we have a lot of products, and sometimes I have 6 or 7 bottles on there, which is more than a person will typically taste when they're just strolling through the liquor store. And so they'll come up and say, what should I start with? Because this used to be easy. I had 3 products. I went in order, and it was easy, right? So, but the question to them firstly is, what do you like? What do you typically, if they are a bourbon drinker or a rye drinker, I'll ask them and then start talking with them about the brands and the bottles that they like, because then I know which one of our products has the most likelihood of hitting with them.
Sorry, Troy. I gotta diverge for a second because Scott's doing something that's blowing the fuse in my head.
I rarely ever proof anything.
He notoriously rags on some of us, mostly Barbara, for putting water in to just see how kind of that additional element adds or changes the flavor. But now he's done it on both. I think he's lost his damn mind.
So I tell you what. So there's 2. For one, like I've not had the single barrel yet. So like I've never tried it. And after he talked about the heat and knowing what mash bill it is, right? Like me being the asshole that I am and the nerd that I am about whiskey, I know exactly what it is. And I'm like, there's some common sense behind why they kept proofing it down. So I was like, what happens if I dropped it to like 90 proof or what? So I had to put a drop in it. And then as much as I love that citrus note, I'm wondering if I can get the last of that like little bit of rye pop on the Mayhem too. Is it going to accentuate the rye, or is it going to eliminate the rest of it? I'm just curious. Like I said, it was weird. Thought came to my mind, and I just started dropping water, and I don't usually do that. They're right. I don't.
But again, that could be also that there are people who like don't like the bourbon straight. They like it on the rocks, single rock, things like that. And by putting a drop or 2 in there, you're just kind of helping figure out, is it better with a drop or a rock, per se, as it goes through. All right, he's passing that around. Something's hitting good then.
So the
No,
town,
your wife just poured a massive amount of water in and ruined the pour. So,
yeah. So the town really, really sweetens up even more with just a touch more water. And to me, like on the nose especially, like it's coming out more tobacco, a little bit more richness, and it's doing a little bit more for that. I haven't tried it yet because I handed it to Barbara because she was like looking at me after I nosed it. But it like I said, rarely would I ever ask, will I ever add water to something? But when you start thinking about, ooh, what about this flavor profile? Because you've already got a couple of really, really good things that are coming. The question is how can you, and man, I hate the fact that we forgot our pads today. We keep dropping bottles everywhere. That you can really, really pull those extra notes out, or will it eliminate a note? Like, that's what you get scared of, right? Like, that's like you said, you can dump a quarter of a barrel in something and completely ruin what you started because of the fact that you don't know what's gonna happen, and water can do the same thing.
Right. The good news is with our core products, we kind of do know what's going to happen because we've done so many blends of it. You know, we're small batch. Our batches are between 7 and 14 barrels on our core products. And so we've done so many batches now that we kind of know, you know, when we taste those barrels, we know, have a really good idea of what the effect's going to be if we use a particular barrel in one of our core products. But our limited releases, right, these are all one-offs, brand new to us. And so it's a learning experience for us. And so, yeah, there is always a risk.
I think white port finishes can go either way. I've had some nice ones, and I've had ones that I really have not cared for. I'm going to say this is my favorite white finish. I just keep going back to the nose. I mean, the flavor is insane, but the nose has changed. I initially, Nick, I kind of got what you were saying and what Scott was saying about some floral notes were creeping in. The strawberry is almost like a strawberry patch on like wild grass in a way. But now, after just kind of airing it out, twirling it around for 10 minutes or whatever, I'm almost getting like, it's not chocolate, it's like a hazelnut spread, like the Nutella, yeah. And I don't know. I don't want to read the bottles
on which one
on this Midnight Mayhem 2. So I mean, it's just. It hurts my head about it. It doesn't really. It doesn't taste like the typical white port finishes that I've had. It is richer than that. So well done on this bottle. This might be my favorite one of.
Thank you. Actually, if you do read the tasting notes on the bottle, you guys have mentioned a lot lot of the notes that are on the tasting notes.
Oh,
right.
See, I'm in another room, so I don't have the bottle.
That's that's because we're good.
There's no grassy undertones is written on there, licorice is written on there, citrus is written on there, and roasted hazelnut is written on there, because that's everything that I get out of it and my team got out of it when we were tasting it and doing those notes. The other thing that I get a lot of is, to me, I get a lot of the influence of the green grapes, particularly like the grape skin, right? You know how in a green grape, the skin has a slightly different taste than the meat of the grape. And I definitely feel the taste and feel the influence on that on both the nose and the palate.
The extra couple of drops of water, to me, it made it sweeter. Like it really, really kind of took a little bit of that grassy note away from it. Mm-hmm. And to me, that made it just that much smoother. Like, not that it needed to be any smoother, but like to me, it took away that. For me, grass and mint can sometimes be like, I don't know if I especially mint. I'm not a big mint fan at all. But when you get those earthy tones, like you're like, it doesn't go where I want it to go, and like that's where for this one, it was like that's where I was worried. Like I was like, I wonder if I can get that to either die down or is it going to really accentuate it? Because rye is weird, right? Like for some reason, sometimes I'll put water on rye and like the spice and the mint just come out, like it just screams at you. And I know you're a massive mint fan. We've talked about that.
Yep.
So that's the reason. When I tasted it, I was like, man, I said, this is a Troy bourbon. Like I know why you picked this, because it had a little bit of those earthier notes. But like I said, when I put just a couple of those drops, you wouldn't like it as much because of it does tone that down a little bit, which is unusual. But I think it's probably because it's more pulling out the flavors from that white port.
Yeah, we proofed it when we were playing with blends. We did try lower proofs, and I didn't like it as much at the lower proofs. I don't remember exactly whether we did 92 or 90. I have to check my notes, but I remember going, nope, we're not going lower than 94. This works here.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the attention of detail on these bottles. And I'm sorry if I interrupt you there, Stephen, but for people that have not touched these bottles, and if you're listening to the show, like the grip strip is, I think, what you called it or something like that, the Filmland on the side.
Bartender's grip.
Yeah, the bartender's grip, the little mega or little, like the kaleidoscope thing at the bottom that looks like the film reel or the little flashy thing. And then the actual bottle itself, like the cap or the cork, it's a film reel. Like, it's literally, that's what it is. Like, the attention to detail you guys put into this thing is really just second to none. And I want people to really realize the craftsmanship that went behind that thought process when you guys really designed these labels, the bottle, everything that went into it.
Even the weight of it. I remember I heard in that 2022 episode about how, Scott, you were impressed with the heftiness of the bottle.
Yep.
Like, you wouldn't want to just drop it, but the fact that it just feels good in the hand.
It wouldn't scare you if you dropped it.
It wouldn't scare you, no. And that's a testament to just the whole. This whole concept is great because I'm just happy. I'm a happy mother. When I drink this, because not only is the bottle gorgeous, not only does it feel great, the product, the juice is crafted well. So from an entire package. Again, also, to be at the price point that you have your products at is a testament to. I could introduce this, and I have given away purchased bottles and given them away as gifts to people. It's a testament to the fact that you all are connoisseurs yourselves, and so I feel like your philosophy on what you would want if you were walking into a store trying something new, you put that evidently in the final product yourself. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate all of that. We do. We work really hard. We have a tremendous amount of attention to detail. What's always interesting to me is, like, occasionally you'll hear some comments online that there's this very typical sort of, I don't know, it's sort of built into us as humans. Like, we're all suspicious and say, hey, if they spent that much attention to detail on the packaging, what's inside must not be very good. They must be trying to cover something up. Right, which always makes me laugh because it's just so the opposite. The whole company is founded on, why can't the packaging be as amazing as it can be and still have ultra premium award-winning liquid inside? So you get both, right? And that's really what it's about for us. Is we put a tremendous amount of attention onto the package, but it's a fraction of what we put into the liquid, because that is what this is all about. And so we are definitely we're liquid first, and then we want to make it, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to be a little bit cheeky and make you laugh. We call it the adult cereal box, so when you're a kid and you're eating cereal, reading the back of the box, right? This is you're sipping your bourbon, and there is always something new to find.
That's funny. I haven't thought of it that way. That's hilarious.
And Johnny likes that concept.
No, it's hilarious that you say that, because I like, of these bottles, for any bottle that I would want to glass cut and make into nice glasses for pouring, it would be these bottles. And I had the thought earlier today of, like, it would be great to just, like, drink milk and eat cookies out of, like, the glass of one of these bottles. So, like, now I know it's not exactly cereal, but you get what I'm saying. Like, that's just so.
I don't want to get up and leave the room, but my partner Steve, his wife, takes our bottles and has them cut. The tops are cut off, and she turns them into drinking glasses, like water glasses, and candles. So the water glasses, she has the labels taken off, but the candles, the labels are still on. But like when he has company over and has a dinner party or whatever, all the water glasses are cut Filmland bottles.
That's nice.
Cool.
Yeah, so they make, and they're big, right? So they end up as like a real big, you can fill them with ice, and you don't have to get up in the middle of the meal to refill. So they're good for water glasses.
It's got to be a good 20-ounce bottle, or a glass, if that's the case.
Yeah, at that point, it pretty much is, yeah. The other thing I was going to say is that in terms of reading the bottle and enjoying the story and all of that while you're sipping, all of our posters, the main part of the label, have Easter eggs. And so there's usually anywhere from 3 to 6 Easter eggs on there. When we do, on our core products, when we have to reprint labels, we will very often mix them up or add some. So the first one is kind of obvious, right? On some of our bottles, it's super obvious, and on some it's not. But every one of our labels, our posters, has a picture of that bottle on the poster. So you can see in Moonlight Mayhem 2, she's holding it in her hand, right? Now, if you think about this is impossible to do, because how do we put a finished image of our bottle on the label if we haven't yet finished the label, because it needs the finished image of our bottle? It's like looking in a mirror, but we managed to pull it off. So she's holding that in her hand. On some of our other bottles, labels, it's much less obvious where the bottle is. But in addition to that, we've also taken to putting characters from one bottle and one story on the labels of others. So on Moonlight Mayhem 2, they're very, very subtle, but there's a Quadraforce character on there, and there are a couple of characters from Moonlight Mayhem 1 on there, and a couple of other elements as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So I got 2 questions for you coming up. So one, I don't know if we asked the question before on one of the previous ones, but how many iterations of the bottle, or did you already have a concept of that bottle, the bottle style, before you got started, or was it something you had to go through a few iterations to really nail it to get what you want?
Oh yeah, no, it was a very long process. So initially what I knew is I wanted to do either a perfectly square bottle or a perfectly round bottle. And that was simply a business decision because, as a whiskey guy, spent a lot of time in liquor stores. And when liquor store shelves get crowded, bottles get turned to their side. So, and I would go in there and, I love Angel's Envy and Rabbit Hole and all this stuff, but those guys were getting turned to the side. And Angel's Envy is an iconic bottle, right? And is amazing. And yet it was getting turned to its side. And I said, I just never want our product to be turned to the side. So if it's round or square, there'll be no point in turning it to the side. So I knew that. And then when we got started in the design process, it was I guess right in the middle of COVID, and the glass shortages and all of that were going on. And so we were going to do a stock bottle originally, just because we thought it would be more cost efficient and time efficient. And there was no such thing back then, right? There were standard designs, but nobody had any inventory. There was no stock. And we figured out we would get bottles faster if we did a custom bottle. Now that turned in, it still took a year before, from the time we started working on the bottles until we had bottles in hand, was a year. But yes, it was. So at that point, then we did hire a design firm because we're not bottle designers. We did hire a design firm to help us design the bottle, our logo, the closure, and then kind of the format of the label. Like we gave them a whole bunch of requirements for what we want the format to be. And so we went from there. So that firm that we worked with is responsible for the bottle design. But we went through many, many versions of it, many. So we did many versions of our logo, because we knew there would be this perception, and there is some, that people see our bottle and go, is this a joke? Is this for real? Right? Is this it doesn't have a dog or a horse or an old man on the label, so how could this be bourbon? Right? And it's not beige or brown or black, right? How could this be bourbon? So we knew we were going to have to counteract that, and we still do. But we wanted our bottle to be very elegant. So it's a very Art Deco style bottle. So very much like, the Art Deco movie theaters of the 30s and 40s that you go into. And so we have this beautiful Art Deco bottle, but you could be going into that theater and seeing a wacky comedy or a drama or anything like that. We just wanted our bottle to say, this is quality, right? Now, you're going to have a wacky label on the front, but this is quality. And so the bottle's all designed, and our logo, our main Filmland logo, is all designed around that concept.
There's only one other bottle that I have seen that comes close to yours, and that's from a distillery in Shelbyville, Kentucky, Jephthah Creed. They have a bottle that represents three different parts. The bottom is the roots of basically the company. Mm-hmm. The middle part is the current part of the thing, and the top part is branches reaching to the future.
Thank you. Yeah, their bottle is beautiful. I'm a fan of Jephthah Creed. I was at the distillery shortly after it opened. I know they were on the market before they had the distillery. So I've got a bottle of their Bloody Butcher before they had their custom bottle, when they were using stock bottles.
You might want to drink that. Might not want to drink that.
But it's not here. It's in Atlanta with Charlie. That's one of our shared bottles. So I don't get to drink it. But yeah, no, I love their bottles. And I know the company very well that designed their bottle. I worked with them briefly, early days before we even had a concept for Filmland. And then I actually worked with them recently because we're doing a slight structural redesign on the bottle because we're moving to a different manufacturer. And the company that designed Jephthah Creed's bottle helped me with that structural redesign.
So kind of piggybacking a little bit on what you were saying, Legend, about looking to the future, are there any plans to experiment with other spirits? Because if Filmland Spirits, which could be interpreted as the wider variety of spirits of alcohol, or do you think that you all have just been doing such a bang up job with rye whiskeys and bourbons that's kind of where you want to just keep the focus. Because I'll pitch you something, and you can tell me to take a walk.
Here we go.
Shut up, Scott. This is really good. And this is how it's done in Hollywood, dude. You trial by fire pitch something and then watch it burn as they tear it apart. But
in Hollywood, you have to send it through your agent so that the studio can say, I've already have this idea or not.
Crap. Well, that explains why I'm a broke community theater actor, not out in Hollywood. But I could see
call 911.
I could see a certain British gentleman spy spoof of a barreled finished gin that would be an interesting one-off to the Filmland Spirits group. So I don't know. Food for thought.
So you hit the nail on the head in terms of we're called Filmland Spirits for a reason. We're not Filmland whiskey because the original concept was to do different types of spirits, not just whiskey. And if you were to look at the original business plan pitches when we were first raising money, it included bourbon, rye, American agave, and something else I can't talk about because we still will do it. And in fact, our first 3 labels that we designed, one of them is for that 4th product that we have sitting in barrels and have had sitting in barrels now for 4 years that we'll do later. And it's not a whiskey. But then as we got closer to launch, and actually we brought in our VP of marketing, Daniel. So Daniel was at Pernod Ricard for many years running the marketing for their craft spirits acquisitions brands. So Jefferson's, Rabbit Hole, TX, Smooth Ambler. And then Daniel joined us. And he is an amazing strategist, not just with marketing, but with everything. And we had tons and tons of conversations. And he's like, look, we're a tiny company. We don't have the money to educate everyone on everything, right? We are going to have to educate the public that there's quality bourbon inside this crazy label. That in and of itself is going to cost a fortune. So why don't you stick with what you know, stick with what you do best, and keep it very simple, establish ourselves as a great whiskey company. And then once everybody knows us, then we can do different things. And so that's what we decided to do. So we are on the bourbon and rye and whiskey path now, and we're going to stay on that for a little while. But of course, I never say never, and there will be other things in the future, but just not yet.
So be respectful of your time, because we greatly appreciate you taking all this time to spend with us today, Troy. I know there was something you wanted to talk about with some of the things you guys have coming up, and then I know you mentioned something about crowdsourcing or something like that you said you wanted to talk a little bit more about. So I'll let you dive in on that piece, and then we'll kind of roll out, and we can talk about where we can find you and all that stuff at the end.
Great. So thank you. I always joke, and it's not really a joke, but half my job is raising money, right? Because that's you're a small brand. There's never enough, right? Especially as at the beginning of this year, we were in 10 states. We're now in 16, as I mentioned earlier. We're about to go into our 17th, and Texas is like 4 states in and of itself. And that requires money, requires funding. And it's going to be a bunch of years before we can self-fund in that way. So we are, as part of our plan from the beginning, we have different rounds of investment that we've been doing. And I always wanted to do a crowdfunding round, but you have to have a crowd before you can do it, right? Crowdfunding isn't just strangers, it's your community, it's your fans, your customers. And we have had a lot of requests over the last 3 years from partners and people who are customers. They say, can I buy in? Can I buy some stock? And the problem is normal rounds, you can't just sell $250 or $5,000 worth of stock. You'll end up with too many investors. It's unruly. You can't take unaccredited investors, that kind of thing. And so we said, when we do this next round, let's do it as a crowdfunding round, because all of those things get handled, right? There's ways that unaccredited investors can invest, that you can put in a $250 minimum investment. And so we said, let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's keep raising funds, and let's let all those people who are interested in getting involved get involved. And so we are doing a crowdfunding round. We're 2/3 of the way through. It's on startengine.com. So you go to startengine.com/Filmland Spirits. Or you can just go to filmlandspirits.com, and there's a big video right on the homepage. And it goes on it ends August 18th. So we're in our last 30-day countdown or 25-day countdown, whatever it is. And like I said, the investment, you can start at $250 and go anywhere you want from there. And then there's all kinds of perks and bonuses that you can potentially be eligible for, depending on a bunch of factors, like At a certain level, there's free shares. Essentially, like you put in $5,000, and if you're eligible, you get $5,100 worth of shares, and that scales up as you go up. But there's also these perks, and so like at $500, you'll get your name on a credits page on our website. But then, sort of in the middle levels, we're going to do investor-only single barrels, so you get access to purchase those. A little bit higher than that, you could get access to actually be involved in picking those single barrels. And at the sort of the top levels, you can join us for a blending session in Frankfurt, and we will use your name and likeness as a character on a future product, things like that. So all of those things are potentials there. So we thought all that would be fun to do instead of just running around raising money from high net worth individuals and different angel funds and things like that. We thought we could get our audience involved and then give them perks that would be really interesting to them.
So we need Scott Mitten's bank account number. Is that what you're talking
I was just saying, Bourbon Barrel Talk needs to sponsor Johnny Tsunami as part of their crowdfunding efforts, because this face on a bottle will sell.
Oh yeah, sell like hotcakes.
They may take it to the gun range and blow it up, but it will sell.
Notice I said we will use your face as the basis.
Okay.
We didn't say we'd use your face exactly.
Oh, good. Thank you. I need help. All the help I can
They'll
get.
pay you not to put his face on a bottle is what they'll do.
No, but also, like, there's a level where you can potentially get on the side of our bottle. There's a credits block. It looks like movie credits.
Yeah.
And we often credit our investors on there. So with the crowdfunding, there's levels where you can get a credit as an executive producer, things like that.
So Brian, we're recording more episodes after this. So Brian,
Can you send me your autograph so I can put it on some more bottles? I got a silver pen.
I signed a bunch of them when I was there in June.
Yeah, but they've all been sold.
They've all been sold. Next time I'm in town, I'll swing by and sign some more.
there we go.
Well, hopefully they're gone by then. But
I hope they are, but if they're still there, our core products and Moonlight Mayhem White Port. Do you have White Port in the store yet?
we don't.
You don't yet. Okay.
I'm hoping we do, because there's going to be a few bottles that I take home.
A lot of people talking over top of people, man. We're sorry, Troy. Amateur
That's
night
no
here.
worries.
We're just so excited and happy. Scott, I got to ask the question, especially to Troy, because he'll appreciate this.
I think he would definitely appreciate the question. So you should go with it.
Okay, Troy. So I have a tendency to ask on interviews. The last question is, if you survived the zombie apocalypse, and I'm going to frame this specifically kind of as a film. If you were directing or starring in your own zombie film, and you and the lead heroine have survived to the end, but there's no coming back, and you pull open that cabinet and there is one bottle there that it's going to be your last drink on Earth, what would that bottle be for you?
Assuming it cannot be any of my products.
It can be anything. Anything you
It
want.
could be anything.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
It's probably a little more fun if you don't choose your own. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm
you
not
do
going to
you.
choose. That's why I'm not going to choose my own. And I'm going to go by what is actually in. I've got about 300 bottles in the room behind me.
Can I guess before he says anything?
Sure, Scott.
Yeah.
Lock, stock, and barrel 18 here.
You know that because we talked about it before. We left it. But I wasn't going to say lock, stock, and barrel. I've had
Old Forester
I've had
100.
enough of it. I've had enough of it that I know. I would say I've got a bottle of Elmer in there that I haven't opened because Elmer is one of my favorients.
You did
And
mention
I-
Elmer in our conversation too, so that's good.
And so I think off the top of my head, and there's Van Winkle stuff in there, and there's Thomas Handy and Leroy Weller and all of that stuff in there. But I think I would just open the Elmer.
The old ETL. Listen, solid pour. Well, hey, if people want to find Filmland, how do they do that? And if they have any questions for you, how do they do that?
Sure, absolutely. So filmlandspirits.com, we have a store locator on there. It'll figure out if you give it permission to your browser or whatever, it'll figure out where you are, and it'll tell you show you stores within 1, 5, or 10 or 50 miles that carry us. You can also purchase it on our website. We ship to, I think, 45 or 46 states at this point. It's not us, right? It's another retailer who
Drop
operates
shipper,
the store for us, because we're not allowed to sell directly to consumers. And then if you want to get in contact with us, there's a contact link at the bottom of every page of our website. It'll take you to a page where you can choose what you want to ask us about, and then it'll go to the right person. Or if you're unsure, just info@filmlandspirits.com, and it'll get to the right person.
Yep. Or they can
Whatever you-
send it to Troy at imakeawesomewhiskey.com.
Yeah, sure.
They really can't send it that. If you're listening, you really can't send it there. Even though he does make awesome whiskey, that's not his website.
Is it not Troy for Prez.com or .org, maybe?
No.
Fair enough. So, Mr. Bolotnick, we appreciate the time you gave us today. Thank you so much. Keep killing it, man. We really
Thank you.
enjoy what you're doing. Let us know when you got the new batch coming out. Send it to us, and we'll go from there. Salud, my friend. Cheers.
Sounds great.
you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for having
care,
me.
brother.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you.
That's our episode of Bourbon Barrel Talk. If you want to find us, you can find us on Facebook, the Instagram, or the X. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way you get our episodes as soon as they drop every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. This is Scott signing off. Peace.